Anybody else have difficulty getting here?
I had to put the passcode in, but that's it.
Okay. Okay, well, it is 6:30, so I am going to call this study session to order this for our joint commission meeting, called to order at 6:30 p.m. If everyone where you're at could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
which is
for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
for all. Okay, we're gonna.
Hello. Good morning.
Hello, we're gonna kick off with roll call for the council. As this is-
Recording in progress.
Got it. Yes, go ahead.
Councilpersons Dupre?
Here.
Higgins? See, I don't see him. Kelsey?
Here.
Ross? Here. Salcido?
Okay. Thank you.
Him. Tobin?
Here.
And Mayor Cox.
Here. Okay, the purpose of this meeting is it's a joint commission meeting, get everybody together. It was 6 months since our last, and I am going to turn this over to Carl so he can make a note of who else is in attendance, and then we can move forward. It's your show. Go ahead, Carl.
Thank you. Okay, just holler out if you're here. Stephen Leader, Rosalino LaDuca, Ed Bear, Mark Lukasik, Joe Palmer. Okay. Michael Horvath.
Here.
Gerald Graychick, Arturo Briones, Kevin Kissel, Charles Persinger, Rosalina LaDuca, John Thatcher, Ronald Tank, here. Joan Brophy, here. Eugene Gross, Mike Horvath,
Here.
Lillian Ross, oh, I'm sorry, we got that. Okay. Rudy Ciaffarini, Larry Edge, Gary Egglesfield, here. Kara Hildebrandt. Okay, Deborah Van Cleve. Sam Ekman. Leslie Lynch Warrelson.
Here.
Victoria McLean.
And I'm pretty much can't do and just do it now. Keep it sitting in there worth visiting. I think it's all that's been good.
Elias Moritas, Bob Steele, Dan Wright.
Here.
Stephen Caldwell,
Here.
Annette DiMaggio, Gene Gross, Candy Plog, Samantha Rose, Joshua Pichardo, Catherine Charisse.
Caesar. Sorry, Caesar, and I'm here.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Carl,
Yes.
I have Jason Bear and Debbie Van Cleve messaging me that they can't get in because the passcode doesn't work. I'm just directing them to the website. To join
Okay.
the chat.
Yeah, that'll work. Okay, when I get finished with the roll, I can shoot them a quick email too, I guess. Constance Adamachiski, Michael Berrigan, Jason Bear, Phyllis DeForia, Brian King,
I'm here.
and finally John Tacher. Okay. Maureen, who were those two folks?
Jason Bear and Debbie Van Cleve.
I see Debbie in the participants now. Hi, Debbie.
Hi, I got in. Somebody else sent an email and I was able to get in.
You got me?
Who is that?
Gene Gross.
Okay.
It's just me. I definitely hear a lot of background noise.
I'm hearing the same noise, Daniel.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Is it?
If we could all mute, it probably would help.
Yeah.
And another trick, if you're muted and you have a keyboard, you can push the space bar to temporarily unmute, and then you mute you when you release it. That's handy.
Still have the noise.
Okay, I believe I got the email out to Mr. Bear.
What about Larry Edge, Carl?
I believe he's on now.
Larry, are you on? I don't think he is, Carl.
Okay, I shot him an email just a minute ago.
All right. So as we're getting started here, everybody should mute themselves, except for Carl, as he's going to lead off.
Hey, Gene, Looks like you're not muted, Gene Gross.
No, I'm not muted. Am I supposed to be?
We're getting some interference. We're just trying to track it down. That's all.
Okay, then I'll mute.
Okay. It seems to have worked. Okay.
Let's try something.
Am I audible to everybody? I hope.
We're all muted. We're all muted,
Yeah.
Carl, and I can't
Yes,
answer.
you're good, Carl.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the purpose of this meeting is twofold. First of all, the mayor convened the last meeting back in March 8th of 2021. And the reason that we wanted to have these meetings is because we're doing our darndest to meet all the best practices for redevelopment-ready communities. I'm not going to get into the depth of that, but one of the best practices is for the development bodies, boards, and commissions that have bearing on development and redevelopment in the community should get together periodically, in our case twice a year, to talk about development issues. Back in March, we primarily had a meeting to sort of get to know everybody, and we didn't really get into any depth of subject matter. But what the mayor left you with back in March was a challenge to, at your leisure, to take a look at the city's master plan and see what it means and what kind of recommendations are in there, and just sort of think about what you, as a member of your development board or commission, or the city in general, ought to be doing about what's in the master plan. A few weeks ago, I sent out an agenda and, I sent out a meeting notice, and I also had a link on that to the city's master plan, albeit the master plan's probably some 160 pages. It was last adopted by all concerned, that being the Planning Commission and the City Council, in November of 2019. When I sent the meeting notice out a few days ago with an agenda, I also attached a more convenient document, and that was the executive summary of the comprehensive plan. It focuses more specifically on recommendations that are contained in the plan as the community moves forward. I have a copy of the executive summary of the master plan that I'm going to speak to on behalf of the Downtown Development Authority and the Economic Development Corporation. I'll be doing that in a few minutes, but I'll just quickly open this document and just briefly go through it and perhaps refresh your memory or bring a few items to your attention. This is a cover to the executive summary. It's a 10-page document. First page after the cover recognizes the council and the planning commission. Both the planning commission and the council were involved in adopting this master plan. The planning commission took the lead with preparing the document with Beckett and Rader. That's the consulting firm that the planning commission uses for planning and zoning issues. And then after it was adopted or prepared and adopted by the Planning Commission, it went on to the City Council and the Council adopted it. This, of course, is a map that indicates the regional perspective of the city of Lincoln Park. It points out that the city is more familiarly located in the downriver portion of Wayne County, that being southwest Wayne County. The master plan went on to solicit from citizens and decision makers alike what certain community assets were. The idea was that these assets are items that the city would want to build upon as it expands the purview of the master plan and plans for improvements in the community. I will say that the city of Lincoln Park is essentially built out. It probably reached that point circa 1970. In the mid-70s, the city was at its high water mark with development, and as a community, as it celebrated its 50th year as a city, that being in the year 2075. The city was founded in 2025, but as you know, if you read the signs that we posted out on the streets, this year, 2021, is the 100th anniversary of the city, or excuse me, of the village of Lincoln Park when it was organized as a village. So we'll probably have celebrations continuing this year for that purpose. I know the museum is taking that to heart, and they're relishing in that 100th anniversary. And then I guess more than likely when we get to the 2025, we'll have a 100-year celebration for the founding of the city of Lincoln Park. There were some comments about citizen engagement. I'm going to get to that myself a little bit later. There were observations on what the demographics of the community are, or at the point in time that the plan was put together. I would just point out one thing right now. In this plan, when it was done, the planners were expecting, based on Esri business analyst data, that the city was going to have a decrease in population, another decrease. Population's been declining since 1970, and it's been going down ever since the 2020 census, that is. We were delighted to find out, Mayor Carnes got this information hot off the grill from SEMCOG, and we've discovered that the city population of Lincoln Park increased from 38,144 in 2010 to 40,245 this past 2020 during the decennial census. The master plan also indicates that the city has been carved up into specific neighborhoods. That is being utilized by internal persona to look at different opportunities for housing development and the like, and to how to improve neighborhoods in the community. I'm sure that the Community Improvement Commission is well aware of those neighborhood designations and works accordingly. The master plan also examined housing, looked at clusters of commercially zoned property and business properties. There were some observations regarding tree cover in the community and where we might want to embellish that for battle against climate change. We also understand that some of the community has issues with floodplains, and those are mapped in the master plan. And I believe that some new mapping is coming out from the state environmental agencies at this point. Finally, the master plan identifies some items relative to the zoning plan. Of course, the zoning ordinance and related regulations have a bearing on how the city develops and redevelops in the future. So with that, I'm going to go back to the agenda, and I'm going to invite persons from the City Council, the Planning Commission, CBA, Dangerous Building Board, Economic Development Corporation, and down the list, to make any opening remarks that they might have about the master plan and what their organization might be doing to advance its causes as we speak. Mayor, I'll turn that back over to you to field comments by the other participants.
Looks like the mayor isn't at his seat right now, Carl.
Okay, well then I'll just ask to begin with for the president of the city council, although I don't remember, is he in attendance this evening, Carlos?
He was not.
Okay, who would the pro tem be?
Well, Carlos is the mayor pro tem.
Oh, he is the pro tem, okay. Well then, maybe we just open it up to any comments the city council members would like to make.
I have a question, Carl. Because of the class that I'm taking, who is in charge, so to speak, of the master plan?
Okay, the master plan contains several different elements. The entity that is responsible for gathering the information and drafting the plan, holding public hearings on it, and eventually advancing it to the council is the Lincoln Park Planning Commission. And the next item on the agenda will be Elizabeth Gunden, who's our representative from Beckett and Rader, and she might be able to speak a little bit more to that. But basically, it's the Planning Commission. When the Planning Commission goes through the process, I'm sure that they're engaged with other of the development organizations and the like, and they like to analyze issues that the other groups are examining, and also make recommendations in the master plan for that purpose.
Thank you.
I hope that answers your question, Tracy.
Yes, thank you.
You're very welcome. I know Lillian is out there, Larry Kelsey. Do either of you have any comments or questions?
Carl?
Yes?
If I could, I just want to say, I think that just from what I've seen, that we're working really hard at trying to adhere to our zoning, our ordinances, you know, and I feel like that's kind of been what we're focused on, because so much has been not adhered to, I guess, that that's kind of like where we're at when we see things I think new. That's when then things we see moving forward.
Yes, I will also point out, remind you that in the last, earlier in the year, the council also moved forward and adopted the ordinance dealing with food trucks. So that's another example of a development issue that is not the zoning code per se, but obviously it's aligned with the development codes, and progress was made on that, and the council did its part and adopted that food truck ordinance.
Right. But now we need to see it. We need to see it in action, and I don't think we have.
Yeah, there were a couple of instances when we were trying to organize some specific events, and the pandemic, even in this year, kind of cast a shadow on them. For instance, back around Cinco de Mayo, we were talking about having a food truck rally. Hi, Bob Steele. And, we had to essentially cancel all those activities. More recently, we were talking about having a Foursquare tournament in the downtown, and we had to cancel that project because of the COVID resurgence. So, in addition to those activities, we also put together a program embedded in the regulations so that individual food trucks could get permits and operate in the city. Now, you're making a good observation in as much as we probably need to do a little more outreach with that. We passed the ordinance, and then we started focusing on these events, and the focus on soliciting the food truck vendors probably was not as vigorous as we ought to make it. So, point well taken. Any other comments or questions from council members?
I'll just make a quick comment if I may, Carl.
Yes, sir.
The planning commission spent a lot of time to get that master plan together, and we went over it with Leah, who has since left Beckett and Rader, and we had a hearing on it and promoted it out. And I think the only thing I would say is that the departments have to adhere to it. They all know what it is. They've all seen it. So when they individually do their decision-making process, whether it's the DDA or the building department or whoever, they just need to refer to it. I mean, we spent a lot of time on that to get it going. It's a 5-year plan. And we spent a lot of time in looking at the demographics and everything so we could put different things there. There would be a guidepost for the different things. That's all I'm going to say. Some of the things that we put in there, I don't know if we're really following, and for a variety of reasons. You got the pandemic, you have the issue with what's going on with government. So it's kind of but they're there. All you got to do is take a look at them and use them as a guidepost. And I think if they do that, I don't think we're going to have much problem. That's all. Yeah. Thanks, Carl.
Yeah, Larry, I want to point out that that's an excellent statement that you made there, because yes, the master plan should be examined when any development and redevelopment issues are being evaluated. And I will point out a little bit later when I go through it on behalf of the DDA and the EDC that I will be making reference to some of those exact policies. So thank you. That's a good lead-in for my presentation later.
Okay. Thanks, Carl.
Okay. I'm going to assume now there are no more council comments. So I'm going to turn this over to Elizabeth now, Gundon. She happens to be the individual at Beckett and Rader that took over for Leah. She's also a very capable and accomplished planner. She has the American Institute of Certified Planner designation, which is a top credential. And with that, I'll just turn it over to Liz.
Carl, one thing before you do, we
Yes.
got Larry Edge on the call now. He had some connection issues. We got him.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I'll check him on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did Jason make it on?
Sorry, who?
Jason Bear?
Yeah, he got on.
Okay.
Yes, he's on as well. Thank you. Yep, and I got him checked.
All right, thanks, Carl. So in terms of how the Planning Commission uses the master plan, as you explained to Tracy, Carl, the master plan is technically the Planning Commission's document. So we definitely use it for any decisions that we make. Probably most notable in a rezoning case, because some of the standards that a rezoning petition would need to meet are whether it meets the goals of the master plan. Also, for any site plan reviews, we always look at what the future land use category is for whatever site it is, and whether the proposed use or of the property meets that category. So any major decisions that we're making, it definitely is based on the master plan.
Liz, I know one of the things that you're endeavoring with the Planning Commission right now is the topic of e-commerce.
Yes.
Could you take a minute and just kind of explain that for everybody's benefit?
Sure. So as many of you know, we are getting a lot of requests, especially during COVID, because in-person sales and retail has been difficult. So we've been getting a lot of inquiries about whether people can use an empty building or an existing building and sell things online. So basically use a building as a place to, store, take photos, package, basically like a mini Amazon type of use. And so we are trying to figure out how to codify that in the zoning ordinance, both so that, we don't end up with corridors that are just mini warehouses, but also so that we can accommodate this new use that is, it is sort of the future of retail, we think, especially as more people shop online anyways. So we're trying to, Kyle and I have been working on this for a while, trying to figure out how to find that balance between, or how to make it fit within the city in a way that makes everybody happy.
So that would ultimately be a zoning code amendment, I take it.
Right, yes. And then finally, in the master plan, there's that zoning plan that you referenced. It was more in 2020 and the end of 2019. We've been doing quite a few zoning text amendments, just small edits in the zoning ordinance to try to make it more up to date, and both planning commission members and city council members probably remember there have been quite a few zoning text amendments in the last year and a half. I think that's all for me.
Elizabeth, I think you may have a couple of members of the planning commission there. Michael Horvath, I believe.
Yes.
I don't know if he might have anything he wants to say at this point.
Well, the reality is, because the Sears shopping center, which used to be 100 stores, maybe not 100, but is completely empty, no further development, and that's the challenge to get acceptable, usable developments, because so much has changed in that store marketplace. So that's what the challenge is, to correct the master plan stuff too, to fit within the constraints that you have to live within, but still has safe, effective buildings, positive. The fact that the residence has moved up is good. I mean, I don't mind at all that it's a multicultural city, and around me the people and stuff are nice and no problems. But yeah, that's an extremely difficult thing for so many empties, because you even look along Fort Street and Dix and Southfield, there's some still in place, but there's so many empties. So that's the thing, we've really got to work what can bring effective business that's acceptable. It's very, very difficult, I guess, is all I can say.
Those are very good observations, Mike. I want to tell you, when I get to talk a little bit about what the EDC and the DDA are doing, I'm going to address a couple points that you brought up. Thank you. Okay. I presume that there aren't any other persons representing the Planning Commission tonight, so if I may, I'm going to suggest that John Myers take the floor and speak about the Board of Zoning, or the Zoning Board of Appeals, and the Dangerous Building Board. And John, you do have a couple of members present that might want to inject comment.
The Zoning Board of Appeals is really designed to be an accountability to the zoning ordinance, and as people find a need to make modifications to their properties, whether residential or commercials, they have the liberty in the city to appeal beyond the building department's rulings and regulations, or planning commission's regulations of limitations to what they're allowed to do in their zoning area. And so the ZBA is designed to take a state statute of guidelines and then evaluate whether or not those guidelines justify a group of citizens to change or make a variance in that zoning board or in that zoning situation. Highly challenging, highly sometimes emotional, looking at details versus looking at neighbors in certain situations that seem like they should be made adjust, but their job is to evaluate what the staff brings as an official report to the case, and then hear the client's perspective. Sometimes they come as citizens, sometimes they bring legal firms with them, and sometimes they bring architectural recommendations with them, and then the evening is usually resolved at making a voting decision. Interesting, when a client may not be satisfied with the decision made by the zoning board, they do have one more place they can go, and they can go within a 21-day window. They can appeal to the Circuit Court of Appeals. If I understand it correctly, that Circuit Court of Appeals does not have the jurisdiction to overturn the zoning's decision, but they do have the ability to evaluate the performance, the standards, and the procedures of which the zoning board heard the case in an appeal to that court, and they can ask us to return it to the zoning board to make sure that we followed all protocols and render another verdict, or even render the same verdict. That's not a matter of choices. Dangerous Building Board, however, is designed to carry two responsible loads. Their Dangerous Building Board is responsible for evaluating any unsafe buildings and dangerous buildings. And our ordinances and zoning standards give us a clear guideline of what the measurements to evaluate someone else's property that they have not maintained over a period of time, and invite them or require them or request them by law and by appointment of the dangerous building to demolish that or to fix and repair. And so that decision oftentimes is challenging, innovative of real tight guidelines of what has to be seen, who has to be, because it's really difficult to take somebody else's property for whatever reason they have not maintained it, and by the authority of a group of people, take the jurisdictive power to remove that property from the foundation. But that is their responsibility. The second piece they have is what is called the Construction Code of Appeals. When the city building department makes a decision on a permit or a building or a material or a design for build, that individual corporation or contracting company has the right to appeal to the building official. If the building official does not give them a definition that they're satisfied with or content with, they do have the right to go to the Dangerous Building Board or the Construction Code of Appeals Board, which is the same. The reason they are both of those boards is because to be on that board, you still must operate with a mechanical, plumbing, electrical, or general contractor's license to sit on it. And so they have the opportunity then to review, again, state code, state regulations, state act, as well as city ordinance on behalf of that property, and give a direction of conditions, life, health, and safety of not only that property, but the properties that are in its neighborhood. So there's the interstructural development of moving forward and developing, maintaining the health, safety, and well-being of not only an individual, but a community and a city at large. I do know I saw two people. Ron is here in the ZBA, and so is the chairman. And so if they would love to interject, this would be a delight.
Well, John, I think you covered it pretty well, so I don't think I have too much to add. I would say that the ZBA board takes their job very seriously, and it is difficult at times to tell people things that they don't want to hear. So I think they do a fine job.
I agree, Joan and John. It's it's difficult when somebody wants to have what they consider a slight variance to the zoning code, and it's difficult to tell them no. But if you start allowing little bitty changes all over, you end up with a large variance from the zoning and deteriorates from the city. So, yes, it's not fun telling people no, but that's what we try and do.
John, do you have any other comments? If you don't, I have two questions that I want to pose.
I would entertain any questions you may have, Carl.
Okay. Okay, first of all, please clarify for me, the dangerous building board, is that where the vacant buildings funnel through when you clamp down on them for being vacant and an eyesore and unsafe? Is that the body that you utilize for that purpose?
Yep, that'll start from that. That'll be the final straw. We will start with a registry of a vacancy. If they deny the responsibility to register their property as vacant or the proper use of their building, in other words, they might choose to have a commercial building that they're using for personal storage because they haven't decided if they're going to put it back into business. It needs to be registered as a vacant. When that doesn't happen, the power of the building department jurisdiction has the right to create a citation so that they have to answer their response to the 25th District Court. We have moved that jurisdiction system a little bit differently over the last 3 to 4 years, and all of the building department court cases are now informal hearings in front of a judge. They weren't that way for a number of years for every base of a situation. So now they get to go there. If they don't get a compliance there, we do have the right to evaluate a dangerous or an unsafe building to be non-occupied, unusable, or condemnable based on the condition and the lack of response from an employee, from an owner. And therefore, we take that to the dangerous building, and they get to review caseloads and make a decision where they'll take it from there.
Okay, I appreciate that clarification. I think Lincoln Park is very fortunate to have this dangerous building board, given that it's essentially a built-out community and that organization can help promote redevelopment. The other question that I had is primarily for the for the zoning board of appeals. Well, I haven't seen this. I have not done this. I've been here about a year right now, but it's occurred to me that on occasion, some business that we might be promoting from the standpoint of the Economic Development Corporation or the Downtown Development Authority might need to get a variance or who knows what consideration from the ZBA. My question is, would the ZBA membership entertain comments that I would have as director of the DDA and the EDC, if we happen to have someone we're working with applying for a variance or what have you? I certainly would not want to make comments that would not address the standards that are required for either development standards variance approval or land use variance approval, but they'd be all on topic. So, is there any comment on that? Would it be welcome? Should we talk about it further or what?
No,
I don't have anything in mind right now.
The answer is yes, but that zoning wouldn't come until it got its approval through the planning commission. So let me give you one example of that case. There was a property on Fort Street who had a number of challenges, and they had to go through planning. They finally worked out the details that gave the city planning commission approval with stipulations. And the stipulation Oh, I can give you another one. It was a residential as well. The stipulation was you had to get approval that this condemned building was going to be allowed to be reconstructed, put back together, only after they got the zoning board of appeals approval that this legal non-conforming building that was now put in the dangerous building board could be allowed to come out of the dangerous building board in renovation, and then the ZBA would have to give them approval to have a non-conforming setback on their property. So they had to use both, but they had to use one planning commission or dangerous building before they could get the stipulation to ask the ZBA to consider changing a variance, whether it be dimensional or land use. And so until it got through the first stage, they wouldn't even get to ZBA for that request of variance.
Okay. I understand what you're saying, and I'll definitely take that into account.
Joan, was that how you would interpret that, Joan and Liz?
Yeah, I think, I remember that case.
Yeah, the one that was the house on Ford Street that had to come to you from dangerous building, and the other one had to come to the ZBA. That was the tire factory, the tire facility on Ford Street. Right. It was the requirement of the 5,000-foot setback. So those are the two that went from both, but they had to go first through the other commissions, and then they said, I can't give you approval until the zoning board of appeals could give you a variance, whether it would be dimensional or land use. And both of those were dimensional. Does that answer your question, Carl?
Yes, sir, it does, and I appreciate the information. Okay, if there are no other comments regarding the ZBA or dangerous building boards, I'll move on down the agenda and say a few words about with respect to the Economic Development Corporation and the Downtown Development Authority. Once I get through about hopefully no more than 5 minutes here, I'll open it up to comments from the board members. So let's see if we can move on this. I better go up. Okay. So once again, I'm scrolling on the master plan, and I'm going to identify some policies and recommendations that we have taken to heart, and that both the DDA and the EDC and the staff of both organizations is working on. First of all, community engagement. You know, there were some observations when the master plan was put together that we needed to build stronger relationships with citizens and create a better funnel to get information coming and going. This is consistent with the Redevelopment Ready Communities program. In fact, the Redevelopment Ready's community program requires that the city of Lincoln Park prepare a citizen participation plan that can be used by all the boards and commissions that are part of the development process and redevelopment process. Timmery Schved, who's the assistant director for EDC and DDA, is very close to finishing that draft plan. And when we get it finished, we're going to circulate it to all the boards and commissions so that you can look at it and see what you think, and then also figure out how you would be able to use that in embellishing your coordination and citizen input outreach. Okay? So that's one thing that we've taken to heart out of this master plan, and we're going to work on. Another point that I want to hit is on demographics. And I already pointed out that, you know, our population in Lincoln Park actually grew since 2010 by about 2,100 people. I also want to point out and underscore the point that one of the board members made about us being multicultural. That is absolutely the fact. The African American population is now 9.2% of the population of the community. The Hispanic Latino population is almost 26%. And our white population, because of these increases in the minorities, are down now to less than 60% white. The point I'm going to make, and the point that we've been discussing with the DDA and the EDC, is that we see that the entrepreneurial classes of our minority populations are the entrepreneurs that we want to focus on and tap to see if they can't help us fill buildings, create economic opportunities, new businesses, and the like. We're in particular taking the Latino Hispanic minority program, and we're trying to put together better outreach, better communication with the Hispanic population, and we are wanting to focus on that group in particular on some projects that we have underway in the downtown. For instance, we're focusing on the 2200 block of Fort Street, which is essentially, with the exception of one building, are all vacant buildings. There's about 5 vacant buildings, and we're endeavoring to get site control there so that we can create a multi-building Hispanic business incubator. Okay, let me go on. Just a couple more comments. As I said earlier, the master plan covers the issue of housing. And it very astutely points out that increase in the variety housing stock is permitted, and we ought to do something to improve that. We talked briefly, a board member mentioned this former Sears Mall site. I want you to know, I want everyone to know that we are working hand in glove right now with the people that represent Seritage, and they have come forward to us and told us that they want to do a mixed-use development that would be missing middle housing, and with a couple of smaller commercial pads. They realize that the mall, the Sears building per se, is a relic that's not going to be refilled with anything, not even a big box like the Burlington Coat Factory or anything of that nature. And they understand that the best opportunity for redevelopment there is mixed-use development. They're undertaking lots of economic studies right now to evaluate the housing market for missing middle housing. That would be primarily rental housing that would be in maybe 2 or 3 story. It could be, what do you call it? Homeowner units, condominiums, and the like. But it would be multifamily, and so on. We estimate that if they took the 17-acre tract and developed a couple of commercial pads, that might consume about 3 acres. That would leave 14 acres for maybe density in the range of 16 to 18 units per acre, and that would help us develop a couple of hundred housing units. So we're pretty excited about that. We're pleased that Seritage has come to the conclusion that a mixed-use development would make more sense. In the same vein, we put together a plan and looked at surplus parking behind the Lincoln Park Plaza, and there are approximately 6 acres there that the current owners of the plaza could develop for additional housing. Again, missing middle housing. We have conversations underway there. They've kind of come to a halt in the last month or so, but we are endeavoring to help them accomplish a reuse of some of those parking lots. Let me go on. I got maybe one more point to make, and then I'll see how the members of the DDA and EDC want to partake. Economic development, investing both in people and infrastructure. This is exactly what we're trying to do in the downtown right now. We are undertaking traffic studies on Southfield Road and Fort Street so that we can tamp down the traffic and the speed limits. We want to make those corridors more accessible and friendly and safer for pedestrians. That's really important if you're going to have businesses there that are going to either be specialties or businesses that cater to the pedestrian traffic. You got to make it safe for pedestrians. We're also working on about a half a dozen sites in the downtown that are vacant open spaces that we're trying to activate as exciting places in the downtown. Last but not least, with respect to the zoning plan, yes, we're happy that the master plan talks about incorporating maker spaces into municipal and regional business districts, but we would also like to see zone changes that will permit that same kind of situation in the downtown buildings. We also are, in conjunction with the Southfield Road traffic study, we also have a corridor study and plan that's going to be developed for the entirety of the Southfield Road corridor from Allen Park through Lincoln Park all the way to West Jefferson Street in E-course. We're going to be coming up with a plan and strategy not only for traffic on that corridor, we're going to try to make it multimodal, better for pedestrians, maybe bicycles, so on and so forth. But we also want to come up with a good approach for land use and zoning. We want, as I said earlier, we'd like the makerspace mantra included in zoning in the downtown. I mentioned the Fort Street Transportation Equity Study and Plan. And last but not least, yes, we're delighted that the Planning Commission is working on e-commerce, and I'm delighted to be working with Elizabeth on that. Now, at this point, I'm sorry, I probably talked more than 5 minutes. I think it's about 6 or 7. But I'll turn it over to members of the DDA and the EDC. Who has any comments or questions? Right now, we got Gary Egglesfield, Larry Edge, and Deborah Van Cleve, and of course, Mayor Carnes from the DDA. Do either of the 4 of you have any comments at this point?
I don't have any comments, Carl. I think you covered it well. So
okay.
I'll open it up to
I'm
the
sorry.
others.
Yeah, actually, that was the EDC. Pardon me, folks. But okay, then from the DDA, we have Daniel Wright, Leslie Lynch, and Mayor Carnes. Do you have any comments?
No, none.
Okay. If that's the case, then I would move down the agenda and turn this over to Doreen Christian, who's going to speak on behalf of the Community Improvement Commission and Parks and Recreation, and I'm sure she'll let her board members speak if they want to inject or contribute. Doreen, it's all yours.
Hi. We'll start with the Community Improvement Commission because that's the first on the list. The Community Improvement Commission is actually the voice of the people to allow them to have a say in what happens with CDBG funding. We do have a citizens participation plan that we have to follow through HUD that is all about our CDBG funding. We work closely with the Department of Public Services for infrastructure, and we also work very closely with the building department on dangerous building board items because we do demolition of that, and we do a lot of housing rehab. But again, I've got a 5-year plan that we have to follow to go through with the HUD basics, and that's what we do. If anybody of the commission wants to say anything? Cricket.
Yeah, you were thrown into the commission, the CIC during?
Yes.
Yeah. just one thing that I'd like to add, from the executive summary, the one term that kind of popped out to be probably being most relevant to the Community Improvement Commission would be the community engagement area. I think a lot of people on the commission just look toward, not only improving the appearance of the community and the perception, but making more people feel like stakeholders in the community and just feeling like part of the community. We usually throw open invitations for when we do like some cleanups and things like that. We've had a few little efforts, like did a community campfire, one time a standalone, other time it was with the zombie apocalypse, but just sort of that general thing of trying to increase the sense of community. I think that's important to a lot of us on the commission. That's it.
Anybody else? Okay, so we'll move on to Parks and Rec Commission. Again, the Parks and Rec Commission has a 5-year plan that we will be redoing next year, that we more or less have to follow with the DNR to be able to file for any type of grants or any type of funding whatsoever for our Parks and Rec area. The commission meets approximately once a month, but Dennis Anderson has really been handling that commission lately, so I'm going to turn that part over to him. Dennis, are you here?
Yes. So the Parks and Rec Commission does meet monthly. They help with development and ideas on new programming for the recreation department. They also help with planning of new projects in the parks, and also with the development of the 5-year master plan. And I don't know if there's any commission members on here if they'd like to add anything. Anybody? Okay, well, I guess that's it.
Turn it back over to you, Carl.
Okay, thank you. Excuse me, I want to point out that Bob Steele is also here from the DDA. He came in a little bit later, but quite a while ago, and I failed to mention his name when I mentioned the DDA members that were in attendance, so I apologize, Bob. At this point, we can go down to the final item on the agenda, and then after which we'll hear a quick summary of findings that were observed by Elizabeth, and then the mayor will have some closing remarks and call for adjournment. So based on what everybody has heard, does anyone, be it the council members, the planning commission members, the ZBA members, Dangerous Building Board members, EDC members, Downtown Development Authority members, Community Improvement Commission, or Parks and Recreation Commission members, do any of you have any comments, questions, or final statements that you'd like us to hear?
Joe Palmer has his hand. He's both a planning commission member and the chairman of the Dangerous Building Board.
It's all yours, Joe.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I think you got me muted. I've been trying to talk since we started.
Oh, I apologize.
That's okay. I got overlooked when you were talking at the Planning Commission after Elizabeth was done.
Yeah.
I did want to comment on how much work was put into doing the master plan. And I think as all of us, most of us are all volunteers here in the city, me being on the boards for over 16 years, we've done a lot of work for the city, and we got to follow through with what we're talking about. We talk about it, but all of a sudden it goes by after 6 months. And I think, Lincoln Park is the gateway to the downriver area. And, as a member of the Planning Commission and I'm the vice chairman for planning, and I'm the chairman for the dangerous building. So I'll stay on the Planning Commission side. We've done a lot of work getting where we're at today, but it seems like all we're getting is auto repair shops, dollar stores. We need to get some restaurants and businesses in this downriver community. If we're the gateway to going downriver, we're not getting that, where we're going off track. Our members that are on the Planning Commission have done a lot of work, which everybody else on all the other commissions have. I like the food trucks. We need we have a local area that they can just pull up, and after a while, people will know that they're there and they'll come this way. Maybe that'll create something down this way. That's the future with the way we're going right now. I also would like to say, going into with John Myers with the city and the building department with the dangerous building, he's done a tremendous job over there. We need people like him in the city with what we're going through. It is a historical moment with what we're going with, a couple of appeals with the board that we've got going on. But I'd like to say that I think everybody going forward, we're all trying to do what we can as volunteers for the city. I know one thing that's a huge issue, we've tried to put it across the council, and I hope you guys take this to heart, but I take a lot of pride in what I've done. I've driven to every dangerous building we've done in the 16 years I've been on the board. I've been, maybe I don't want to use the word accosted or what, but I think we, as a dangerous building board, should have some kind of identification, and I know I brought this up before, but the last time was a little dangerous for me, looking at a couple of the properties. And, I have a family and everybody, just like everybody else does, and I am a volunteer, but, people, you can say what you are, but when people don't have a identification, they don't know who you are. The last one was a little scary, so I'll just say, I care about what I do. I think we should have some kind of identification as council members, or commission members, I'm sorry, and move forward toward that. If that helps out at all for the mayor and council, deeply concerned about doing it. Yes, sir, I see it, Kyle. I don't have that.
Yeah, I'll speak with James Cruzan tomorrow, and he's on the call right now, but, unless there's some rule or statute or ordinance that prohibits that, I think it's an excellent idea.
Yeah, actually, just before I came on and took over for the dangerous building, I was quote-unquote the youngest member at the time. And like I said, ever since 2005, at that time, prior to that, they had like little badges and stuff, and I don't care about having that. Just, we have some kind of a picture ID and show who we are. I state, hey, building department when I show up, but, you come in these houses, you got squatters, and the one of them I went on to Outer Drive was not a good situation, I will say that. I got out of Dodge really quick. That's all I have to say. I think we're doing a great job as the commissions that we have. We have some great people here. But like I said, I reiterate, I think we need to create something with food, the food trucks. It's huge right now. Let's keep going forward. We talk about, but we got to keep pushing forward to go for it. And again, I want to give the building department a huge kudos because they've been doing a great job over there with John Myers. Thank you for my time.
Thank you very much, Joe. Anyone else now?
I would like to.
Jason?
Yes.
Go right ahead.
Hi, I'm on the Parks and Recs Commission, but what I want to speak about isn't necessarily related to that, but it kind of goes to the point of the previous gentleman about having a residence, seeing the result of the ordinances like the food trucks, and what I want to speak about would be ballot initiatives that passed, like the one to allow marijuana-related businesses in the Lincoln Park back in 2019. It gets asked on the Facebook, the Residents Lincoln Park page every now and then, and every time somebody asks about it, you just get people that just blame the city for not being business friendly, too many regulations because it's been 2 years. And I know that's not the case because many of you on this call, work very hard to want to bring in new businesses to Detroit, but nothing combats that narrative like seeing results of it. I know there's 2 companies currently in the process, and everyone is very eager to see the actual storefront come on the north end of Lincoln Park. And, a social media presence is important. That is how a lot of people in this city get their information and form their opinions. And I certainly appreciate the council members that are very active on Facebook that I see. I mean, some more than others because I know social media can be very toxic these days. And that's just all I wanted to say during this meeting. Thank you.
Good observations, Jason.
I'll speak if I can.
Barry, go ahead.
Yeah. I think we've touched on this before. And we're all agreeing to agree, but can we please move things along quicker than it's taking? Okay. I hear clients, business owners, just speaking of the horror stories that they go through to open up a business here in Lincoln Park. Second thing here, I'm looking at this master plan dated November 2019, and I am just now reading it. We're just now talking about it. This is almost 2 years that this thing's been out, and now we're just now talking about it. How much time is it going to take to make something happen? Just like, again, we've all talked about the food trucks. I was very involved in the food truck proposal from day one, which was probably, I'm guessing, 3 years ago.
That's about right.
And I've still yet to see a food truck. I get discouraged sometimes, I guess is probably the best way to talk about it. Things pass. The marijuana thing, it passed. Okay, what are we doing? I'm dumbfounded on why it takes so long to get something done. I'm not looking for an answer, I guess, because nobody's going to have an answer, but that's just my frustration getting out and my observations. I needed to get that out. That's all. But if we could just move things along a little quicker.
Yep. Gary, if I may, I want to mention a couple things. James Cruzan might want to get into this a little more depth because he's been reviewing business regulations in our fair city. But we do have, certain changes that need to be made in the zoning code that would help move things along. I'm not going to belabor the detail. And then James has been going through the business regulations, and it's amazing how many business regulations that we have that actually cross-pollinate with other ordinances. And some of these items are in conflict, and we've been talking internally about purging a lot of the regulations that are meaningless or don't apply, or some that we have on the books that are actually being covered by county regulations or by the zoning code, because there is some of that. There's some tension in again, the codes that are creating some friction that's causing some delay or confusion, if not delay. So your point is well taken. And, again, James and I have been talking on how we can make headway. And those are two priorities that we've got: fixing the zoning code, updating it so that it accomplishes what we want to see happen. That's number one. And number two, going through all the business regulations apart from the zoning code that we may not need or may be anachronisms.
Okay.
But again, your comment and your perspective is very well taken. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Who else is out there with a final comment or two?
Carl, if I may.
Yes, sir. Larry Kelsey, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would invite somebody to come down to the planning commission and see what they actually do. See who the business people are that come down there that sometimes aren't prepared. Sometimes their brother or their neighbor does their architectural drawings, which are not the way they're supposed to be done. Look at what you're dealing with. I'm not saying all of it, but some of it is the fact that when you're an entrepreneur, you can't come down with a piece of paper, an idea, and expect to go through the process and have no. And then when they tell you what the process is, the first thing you say is, "I didn't know that." Well, you can open up a business and get people to come to your business if you don't know how to get the business open. The other question I would suggest, or a comment I would make, is that I think it's Tracy Dupree has been doing a good job on social media talking about where the marijuana dispensaries are. And I'd like to just give a general statement here that I think is very, very insightful to where we're at. We just recently had at 5:30 a town hall for the water rates that we're going to have to raise. You know how many people we got besides the council? One person, one resident. So you got to be informed to understand what's going on. You can't sit there and gossip or hear things, and sometimes they're true and sometimes they're not. 9 times out of 10, your best thing is, if you want to find out, watch some of the Zoom meetings. That's where the information, just like we're talking about tonight, Carl, all this stuff on here is for not only the commissions, but it's for the residents to take a look at. Am I correct, Carl? I mean, that's the whole idea we're doing this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you look at the people on the thing, how many are actually residents? That's my point. The residents, I don't know if we don't have a way of engaging them, or quite frankly, they don't want to be engaged. And I don't mean that negatively. I'm just saying they're busy and their days are their days. But we give out information a lot and try to be engaging with things. But I would suggest that anybody that has time is to go down to a planning commission or a Zoom meeting. Well, they don't actually, they Zoom now. But actually go down to a planning commission. Just sit in the audience and just see what goes on with the applicants. Not everybody, but just see what happens there. You'll see what the planning commission is up against sometimes. And we do everything we can. Well, I was on it before. They do everything they can to make sure that resident is taken care of, so that they can get their dreams more, because it's better for us. So I just want to make a balance to the comment that Gary made. That's all. I'm not saying anything now. I'm just saying my perspective as a councilman, being involved in 12 years in the city and 8 years on council and in various commissions, about what I see happening in this community. And I think a lot of it is that there's a communication breakdown somehow, and we haven't accomplished that barrier yet. That's all. But that's what this is part. Excuse me. This is what it's part of, Carl. This stuff like here. That's why we're spending here for the last hour and a half to get this. So everybody's on this. But that's just my perspective, Carl. Of sometimes what happens is communications are the hardest thing to do sometimes with people. Thank you, Carl.
Yeah. Well, listen, Larry and Gary, I think you're both right. I think you're both coming from a different perspective, and that's the whole point. We've got to figure out a way to accommodate both. We need to engage citizens more. They need to understand what's going on. We also need to try to streamline things for the business prospects.
Carl, can I comment on Councilman Kelsey's remarks there?
Yeah, why not? And then I think Joe Palmer wants to inject something right after you, so please do.
Okay, so the public participation plan that we're working on, that is primarily what it addresses, is how can we get this information out? How can we do our due diligence to make sure that the citizens know where to find information? And to that point, opening a business, there are 3 different things on our website that spell out the steps to open a business in the city of Lincoln Park, and every one of them is different from the other. So that's something that we're also working on once we finish the public participation plan. I've been in conversation with Laura and the building department to get an idea of exactly the steps that need to be in there so we can make a streamlined document to show people the exact steps that they need to take and to make it an accessible document on our website. You're absolutely right. There is a breakdown of communication, and we are taking very solid steps to correct that.
Yeah. And the renditions will also be multi-languaged.
Yes. Because that's a whole nother level of the communication breakdown that we struggle with, or that we see people struggling with.
Emily, I couldn't recognize your voice at first because you had that cold.
Yes.
Anyway, that was Chimmery Shved. She's our Assistant Director for the DDA and the EDC. Thank you, Chimmery. And Joe, you wanted to say something, Joe Palmer?
Yes, I did. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to chirp in on the same thing that she just did say, but that's the huge thing that we have right now with being Lincoln Park. We've been stepped on like a bug for years. People come in and think they can go and just step on us and come in and do a business or a residence and that. We need to communicate more, regardless if they do pay attention to going to our website or what have you. Like, reiterating back, the building department does a huge job, but these people think they can come in and do this, that, and the other, and when they come in front of us, like Larry Kelsey said, they think they're going to step on us. Oh, well, I didn't know. Well, we have protocol. You should have followed that. We put our feet down, and we're going to keep doing that because we're tired of being stepped on like that. The thing that we need to do is keep communicating with the public. If they don't, then we're going to do our diligence with it. My concern right now is with this, I call it the scamdemic, with the pandemic going on. The Planning Commission, the public needs to be part of it. They don't come online in that. A lot of people come online and they don't show who they are. You can type any name you want and say who you are, representing this resident or whomever. When can we get back together, even if we've got to go to somewhere where it's an auditorium or what, like we've had before in the past? If we've got to do something like that where we can be spread out, I think we need to do that, especially with the Planning Commission. It's a huge thing right now with what we're doing because all of our commissioners are putting their feet down and holding together to make this community one of the best communities, especially downriver. That's why I wanted to comment. Thank you, Carl.
You're welcome, Joe. Any other members at this point want to bring anything up? Yes, Gary?
Yeah, so just to go one step further, so someone wants to open up a business and let's just say that they're unprepared, okay? You know, I'm a good cook and I want to open up a restaurant and that's all I need, that's all I want. So I come to the commission and that's what I speak. So, you know, obviously that's not the right way to do it. There needs to be a plan, there needs to be, you know, protocol in order. So do we just say, sorry there, Mr. Business Owner, you're not prepared, so go away? Or do we say, maybe there's someone in the community that can help you put your plan together and present it the correct way? I'm guessing not. I'm thinking that we're just telling these people that we can't help you, you're not prepared, and come back when you're prepared.
Well, when they come into the city, Gary, we direct them to Carl or Timmery. And anything that I come across, that's where they're directed to. And I'm sure that after the meeting today, I would recommend everyone else to do the same. If you have somebody that even has an inkling of wanting to open a business or has questions about that, direct it to that duo first. And that would save a lot of heartache, I think.
Sure, and let's you know, I mean, I'll even volunteer to help put, you know, if Mr. Business Owner isn't prepared because they don't have a business plan or they don't have whatever necessary steps to do, let's get them steered in the right direction so they can do what they want to do.
Yes. Gary, your point is well taken. And, you know, we do have points of referral, like with the Small Business Administration and some other entities that exist. But the point I want to make is this. What I think is happening more often is that people figure they got a plan together and they run out and start engaging in the real estate market, and they make tentative offers, or they sign a lease, and they kind of get that cart before the horse. And sometimes, that happens, and then these folks go directly to, like the building department, or they talk with our planning consultants, and they get, off on that tack, and maybe they just maybe they started down a path that they were not prepared for. I don't know if somebody senses that along the way, they can still refer them back to us, and we'll do what we can to help them get it all together. There's complexities there, and I understand what you're saying completely, and we should be able to help point those folks in the right direction. And I'm encouraged by your willingness to speak with some of these people, to fashion their business plan, as it were. Not you specifically, but to get your advice on how they can do that.
Okay, I'd be more than happy to do that. I'd love to provide that service.
Okay.
Because a lot of people, they have a great business, and they know what they're doing, they have a great widget, whatever it is, but on the business side of it, they're just not savvy on that, and that's where they need their help. Their expertise is whatever they do.
Yeah.
They cook, or they make paintings or whatever it is, but they don't know the business side of it. And I think, obviously they need to know both sides of the coin. And the reason maybe some of these roadblocks are happening is because they just don't know the right path to go down. So, I'd like to move the process quicker. That's all. We want to fill up these buildings, and again, just from what I hear from people that come into my firm, it's like pulling teeth to try to get a business here, and it shouldn't be. We don't. I don't know. None of us are making it difficult. That's not our intent. I'm sure 100% of us that's not our intent, but it's what's happening. So let's try to make an effort to get things happening.
Gary, something else that I think is happening are people are looking to their landlords for advice. They enter into a lease agreement. The landlords send them off in the completely wrong direction, and they're not coming to City Hall at all before sinking their money into this business. So I think that's another issue that we're seeing with people getting very bad advice from, there's just a couple of instances I can think of off the top of my head where the people actually left Lincoln Park. They didn't open these businesses in the end.
Yeah. I believe John Myers is still on this Zoom meeting, but what I heard from John is that the way our ordinances are set up, a tenant is responsible for getting certificates of occupancy, and I think that's a little bit backwards. I think the property owner ought to be responsible for that. And you know what I mean? All of a sudden, these guys come in, they're leasing, and they're being told, you got to do this long list of improvements or you can't open. Why, do you understand what I'm getting at? That should be the property owner's, the landlord's responsibility, not the tenant.
And landlords are telling the tenants that they don't even need certificate of occupancy in some cases. So there's just a lot of bad information where people aren't even coming to City Hall and discussing with anybody, not with the building department, not with the planning commission, and not with us.
Yep, I can vouch for that as a fact.
Yeah.
This just happened to me.
Okay.
Can I jump in, Carl?
Pardon me?
Can I say a suggestion on that, please?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a big gray area. As a licensed builder, we just went through this a couple of times where there's an owner of a property or a business, and then they say, well, yeah, you can do this, you can do that, do that. They're taking advantage of that person. So what we put our feet down to do is state that, no, the property owner is responsible. We'll shoot them down. They've got to start all over. Simple as that. We're not going to play that game no more. We're going to be very stern. And it's sad because that person got taken advantage of. But then again, it's like you buy something, buyer beware. At Lincoln Park, we need to put our foot down. We're putting our feet down. But I did want to say one more suggestion. I did have my hand up, but I love that idea because we all got to stick together. I did want to put a note out there that we've lost a couple members on the Dangerous Building Board. We need to get a couple more licensed people on this board. We're trying to get some younger people, of course, but it doesn't matter. We need some licensed people on there. Anybody out there, we've got, 29 people here? Anybody knows anybody that really wants to commit themselves to be a volunteer, we need them. So please put that out there. I appreciate that. All I got to say, time to eat dinner. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? If Mayor, may I make a suggestion? We've been going on this for about an hour and a half now. We were going to ask Elizabeth to do a summary of findings. Elizabeth is going to write up some meeting notes. Perhaps we would be better off just getting to your final remarks, and when we get the notes from Elizabeth, we'll mail them out. They'll be more comprehensive than just a quick reading at this point.
Well, Carl, as I was thinking through this, that it would probably be a good thing to have regular communications from that. We're talking, we'll meet again in 6 months, but as Elizabeth can go through and do the first update, and then I would recommend that if you could put something together on a monthly basis, just updates on what we've discussed today, what Elizabeth is going to touch on with the key findings, and then give us a little update. And if you have information on new businesses or things, and if the Planning Commission has some things that they'd like to have included in that we could share information.
Yeah.
A little bit, and just make it so that we're not waiting for 6 months, as was said, that you find out what this person is doing, what that group is doing, and I think that we get stronger that way. All of us here are here for the same purpose. We want to make Lincoln Park a better place to live, work. The people that are on the meeting today are part of the pieces that make this work. You volunteer your time, not only for your regular meetings, but here you are at this meeting on a Monday night, which was unplanned. And I appreciate that. And I'm sure the rest of the council feel the same way. We could not have a city, we could not have Lincoln Park government without our volunteers. So I was talking about that, and I just wanted to thank you, make sure that goes out, that we all appreciate everything that you do for us. And at that point, I think, Carl, enough has been heard from. We'll move on. We'll get the updates from Elizabeth, and if you could have, get an email train for everyone. I think there is some information available for the marijuana of why it's taken a little bit, and I think that I'll get the definitive information from John Myers, and then we'll do an update for that. That so that everyone knows that it's really very little to do with the city and more on the licensees, and they're not doing things in a timely fashion. So But I think that is all. I just wanted to thank everyone again for that. This is a study session, so we do not need a motion to adjourn. It's just
Okay.
that we're...
I want to say one thing, please. After this crazy summer weather, please, God, give us a mild winter. Amen.
All right, so with that, the business for the study session has come to an end, and we are adjourned at 8:04. So thank you, everyone, for participating, and have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Thank you, one and all.
Bye-bye.